What's going on, guys? Shane Baker with Shane Baker Studios. And I recently had an experience, and I think it could benefit other creatives who might be struggling with something that I recently went through. So, as a photographer, I shoot a variety of subjects: underwater, boudoir, portrait, fashion, architecture, real estate, commercial work. And each of these have different price points, different level of involvement from myself, my creative team, my editing staff, and there's different work that goes into each of these. For a number of years, some of these I've kept prices at the same price that I had 5-6 years ago, and I'm a much different photographer than I was 5 years ago. Much more seasoned, much better, much more creative, and I found myself on photo shoots where I knew that I could do so much more if there was the budget, I had the creativity, I had the time to give to the client the way that I wanted to. And so I made a choice that I wanted to stop under-delivering for what I was doing with my clients, the work that I was doing on their behalf, which meant prices had to change on a handful of the services that I was offering, which also meant that I would be saying no to some of the current clients I had. And if you're a creative, you understand that this point can be extremely anxiety-ridden. I mean, there can be so much fear and self-doubt and negative talk tied up into this. And you're challenged to not compare yourself to what other people are doing, right? You look at other creatives out there, the work they're putting out, the price points they're at, and as creatives, one of the things that we don't really talk about money. We don't really talk about pricing, because if you love it, you're super passionate about it, the money is kind of secondary. You want to do a really great job. But if you're doing this as a creative who wants to earn a full-time living, those conversations are really valuable and super important, not only to others, but to yourself. So I decided that I wanted to no longer underserve the clients that I was doing photo shoots for. And so day one, I sat down on this board right here behind me. I just scribbled out a couple ideas that I had on how to solve this problem. And once again, it all comes around pricing. This is what this topic is about. And that's all I had. And it sat there for weeks, to be honest with you. I didn't even touch it. And then I came back to it a few weeks after and added to it. A month goes by, a little bit more is added to it over that course of the time. And a few more months, kind of erase everything I put on the board, started over from scratch, new ideas. I did this over and over and over again. And it was slow. And it didn't come to me all at once. I just knew something had to change. I knew the direction I wanted to go into, and that's all the information that I had. Nothing else. I had to create the path forward. So I put down a little bit of information, as much as I could in the moment, and I walk away from it until it just nagged me, and I knew that I had to come back to this board and add, change, erase, revise, whatever it is that I had to do to get this vision moving forward. Months go by. To be honest with you, this is probably a multi-year issue, if I really am honest about the way I felt when I first started thinking about this problem. And so all this time goes by. And one day I'm sitting here. I still have all those feelings of anxiety, the negative self-talk, everything else that goes into making a big change like this as a creative. And on the board was the path. It was all there. And all I had to do was put it out there. feelings that I had looking at that, to be honest with you, were not any different from the feelings I had on day one. That anxiety and everything else, that just that trepidation and everything that was keeping me from making these changes, I still felt them. Even though that the process and the path was complete on that board, I still had that emotional feeling. But the difference was I now had a completed plan to move forward. A few more days go by, and I put it out there. And if you're creative, you know that that moment is like holding your breath underwater, and that release comes when that first client says yes to those changes that you've made. And it's that sense of validation that comes with that. Well, that happened day one. And it happened again day two. And that was my validation that that path and that plan, the ideas that I had been simmering in my mind for over a year, I was on the right trajectory. And they were right for who I was and what I was offering as a creative. And people were willing to say yes to that and allow me to give them my best. Now, you might be struggling with something similar. It doesn't have to be pricing. Maybe it's that fear of going from hobbyist to full-time. Maybe it's going from one genre to another genre. Whatever it might be. You might have those feelings that I had, and I would encourage you to take a step, put something down towards that goal, because the days, months, and years are going to pass us by regardless. The only question is, in the future, when those days, months, and years passes by, will we have a completed plan in front of us that we've created for where we want to be? That feeling of trepidation and fear and self-doubt did not disappear when that plan was completed. As a creative, you understand this. It doesn't disappear until you get that yes from a client, and that just fills you up, and it's everything to you. And what I want to share with you is take that first step. And if it's okay if when you're done creating that path forward for you, it's all right if you still feel the same way that you did on day one. Put it out there, and hopefully somebody will say yes to you as well. Take care.